Well, welcome to the Thursday night 7 o'clock talk with Dr. Miller and Nurse Jessica. And tonight, I know we said last week we were going to discuss telomeres, but I've had a lot of questions about blood work because people keep coming in and saying, the doctor says my blood work's normal, but I still am tired, or I still have joint aches, or I still have what do you name things? What are symptoms that people have when they have
My joints hurt. I can't sleep. I'm
no
tired all
energy?
the time.
Yeah.
I eat and I can't. I don't eat and I don't lose weight. They're irritable. They're
So, so there is a difference between what is a medical emergency or how should I phrase that? What they medically treat, the cutoffs for the blood work. Because medicine looks at it like if your white blood cells um, aren't over
well. I mean, your
8 or 9.
blood work is never going to be an emergency unless you have a severe infection, you're having a heart attack, or
We'll call back. Sorry, we got a flight tomorrow and we can't get her checked in. So, anyway, we are looking at this and we're looking at the difference between the way a medical doctor looks at blood work and the way that I look at, or a functional medicine doctor looks at blood work, because there is a lot that can be gleaned from the blood work. And this is something that we're going to start to offer is well, we'll just say it now. At the end of this, if you want me to look at your blood work and do a consultation, then I can start to look at your blood work and tell you some of the things that it indicates. And this is an easy way for you to get an introduction into functional medicine. And so, how many times have you been told, oh, your blood work looks great, but you're tired, you hurt, you're irritable, and whatnot. And so when we look at that and we start to think about that, I want to take just one piece of the blood work that is called the differential. So most doctors will order a CBC, which is called a complete blood count with diff, and that diff is the differential. And those readings are given in percentages. And so when we look at that, they tell you an awful lot because you can start to see if this is a bacterial infection. We can start to see if this is, you can't really tell bacterial from fungal, but you can tell that there's something off. You can tell if there's a virus. You can start to get indications of things that aren't so bad that it's overt in blood work, or you have overt symptoms that you're down, but you just aren't 100%. And that's where a lot of people start, and they're like, I just don't feel like my old self. And then you will be told that, oh, well, you aren't as young as you used to be, or this is just the way it goes, or whatnot. That's not true. It doesn't have to be that way. So, first things first, you want to add anything to that? Because you've been told your blood work looks great forever. And at first you were tired and couldn't get
Libby.
rested. And then now we've gone through a lot of that stuff and you're no longer tired.
Well,
And
I'm tired at 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day. I go to sleep.
yep, take a nap.
But I mean, you just hit 45 and it's, well, you've just reached that point in your life, but that's just the way it is. Or you're getting older now.
And so we don't have to accept that. So I guess when I was 40, I started to go through this process of healing myself. And I wish somebody had told me or taught me 12 years ago what I know now, and I could have started a whole lot earlier, because I started out by trying to out exercise my lack of sleep and crappy diet and whatever else, and it just drove me into the ground even more. So the first number I want to look at, and this is just going to be a real brief overview, If you look at your differential, and this is a white blood cell differential, the first thing that you will see is called a neutrophil or neutrophil percentage. And the magic number for that is 60. And like I said, this is a very high level. I'm not going to teach you a lot of stuff. This is just a tool for you to screen your own blood work to see what's stressing you. So 60 is perfect. And if it's greater than 60, then you're possibly looking at a bacterial infection, something like, we're not talking about Clostridium difficile, we're not talking about a strep, we're talking about a dysbiotic infection. So your gut is starting to look like it got more Firmicutes into it, or it's more inflammatory. So you're looking at small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, you're looking at a dysbiosis, you could be looking at a fungus as well, because it really can't differentiate that. But if your number is greater than 60, then that's something that you're looking at. So if you've got a 63, a 62, 65, if you're over that and you're in the 70s, you definitely got something going on. And what are the symptoms that this can be giving you? Joint pain, gut pain, brain fog, all of those types of things. So if you look at your differential and you look at that neutrophils and you see that 60, that's where it's best to start to see somebody like me. Because then you don't go to, how many people do we see that they come to us and we're the last ones they've seen, and they've been battling this for decades?
Probably 75% of them.
And if you can catch this early, the great one is everybody is like, I'm tired and my thyroid, everybody tells me my thyroid is great. If your thyroid ranges should be between 0.5 and 2.
Well, but they don't look at them. They only look at one
Yeah, they look
measure.
at TSH.
And there's lots of other things that cause that to be, it might look beautiful, but it may not be right.
Yes. And so that's when you're looking at that. And so if your TSH is between 0.5, at 0.5 or greater, or 2 or less, then you're actually looking in a very optimal range, and that should be unmedicated. Let's back to the differential. So the next are the lymphocytes. And lymphocytes are part of the lymphatic drainage system. It's getting things out. 30% is perfect on this. So if you have lymphocytes at 30%, you're doing great. If your lymphocytes are greater than 30%, then you can be looking at a viral infection of some sort. So this could be when you're looking at, I want to say Bisphalia wadsworthia, but that's a bacteria. Golly, I had one of them. It showed up in my blood work. I can't remember what the parasite was called now.
It was a waterborne one.
Yeah, it was from me swimming in the Ohio and down in Mexico.
It was an amoeba of some sort.
And so when you're greater than 30% on the lymphocytes in the differential, you're most likely looking at one of these viral bugs that are in you that are causing an issue. And if you're, one of the things about the lymphocytes, one of the things that I wanted to make sure I told you about, let me look at that. Greater than 30% is showing low-grade viral infection, and that's one of the biggest triggers for autoimmune disorders. And you really want to stay on top of that. And you'll notice that one of these goes high and one of them will go low. And that's because there's always a balancing act in the bloodstream and in the body. So you want to pay special attention to this, because if your neutrophils are in the 40s or 50s, and then your lymphocytes are in the 35s to 40s, you want to look at that, because that's a low-grade viral infection. And there are things that can be done with that naturally without hitting, well, antibiotics won't touch a virus anyway. But if you get a hold of us, we can tell you what herbs to take and point you to a good source of those herbs. Next are neutrophils and lymphocytes should be in a 2-to-1 ratio all the time. And the closer you get to a 1-to-1 ratio, the closer you're getting to having some form of an autoimmune disorder. I'm not going to say you have a disease, but you're starting to get into that disorder where the immune system is starting to attack itself. Monocytes, 7% is perfect. So when you're looking at your blood work, if your monocytes are greater than 7, then it's viral. And if it's greater than 12%, then you want to start looking at mono or Epstein-Barr. So once again, monocytes are another viral marker, and they kind of coincide with the lymphocytes. So most likely your lymphocytes and your monocytes will be a little high together when your neutrophils are low if it's a viral infection. And so these are patterns that you will see. Eosinophils are next, and 3% on those is perfect. So if your eosinophils are at 3%, it's perfect. If it's greater than 3%, eosinophils are known for allergies. And the first place you want to start with this stuff is look at your food. Do you have sensitivities to food? So we can look at the tongue, we can look at the nails, we can look at a bunch of different things to corroborate what's going on with the that dog. You would think it never gets attention. But that's where we want to look. We want to look at the eosinophils. So first we start with food, and then after we start with food, then we want to start to look for parasites. So if you have done an elimination diet and you've done the ketogenic diet or some form, or you're vegan or you're vegetarian or whatever else, and the eosinophils are high, then we want to start to look for parasites. And once again, it's not like a parasite that you're going to go to the hospital and they're going to see on that test. It's a bug that's a weaker bug that just latches on. So think of it like a backpack. And every time you get a year down the road, you get another brick in the backpack. And if you've got this extra weight dragging on you, it's kind of like trying to run with a parachute on, and it just drags the system down. So if your eosinophils called back. So if your eosinophils are at 3%, that's perfect. But above a 3%, you want to start to look at food allergies, and you want to start to look at parasites if you've already done all the food stuff.
Maybe thinks I need a bath.
Yeah, it's probably licking the salt off of you. Next are your basophils, and basophils should be at 1%. And so if you're at 1%, you're perfect. And if the basophils are high, if they're above, it's kind of the same as the eosinophils. You want to start to look at food allergies or sensitivities, and then you want to start to look at parasites if you've done everything else. And if all of those markers are low, then you want to start to look at which one is high. So they can't all be low because they have to add up to 100%. So if you start to look at that, and then you see which one it is, then you can see what the indication for that is just by rewatching this video. And that way you can start to get on that. But if you want us to look at your blood work, you can send it to Dr. Miller at Integrated Health of Indiana. And I can take a quick glance at that and then start to give you an idea of what direction to go. If you've tried a bunch of stuff, we can escalate through lab work. We can escalate to a GI map, then we can do an omics, or we can do those together. But it's just getting you to the point that we want you to feel better. And that's what it's all about. So, is there anything else? Did I forget?
Nope, I don't think so.
All right. Well, I hope you have enjoyed the presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us. If not, we're here to help, and that's what we want to do. So if you have a question, Dr. Miller at Integrated Health of Indiana and .com, and we will answer your questions as quickly as we can get to them, usually within 24 hours. Have a great night.